Gulfstream Park Sprint Stakes. It's going to be a wild race on February 22nd. We're talking serious contenders and a whole lot of money on the line.
Oh, yeah. $140,000 purse.
You got it. And with the help of our expert, we're going to break down all those predictions.
And maybe help you spot a winner out there.
Exactly. So let's get right to it. What do we got to know about this race?
Well, first off, it's at Gulfstream Park.
Okay.
6 furlongs on the Burt. So all you speed demons out there, this is for you.
Gotcha. Stakes are high, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're going to see a competitive field. Got to be prepared for anything.
All right. Well, I've been checking out the racing form report and the Equibase race form.
Good sources.
Yeah. And they both say that at Gulfstream Park, speed is king. Like those horses that burst out of the gate, especially from the inside posts, they seem to have an edge.
You know, it's interesting because when you look at past races, those inside posts do have a higher win rate. Yeah, it probably has to do with the track layout. You know, the inside posts have a shorter path to that first turn, so they can really establish a dominant position early on.
Interesting. So a horse breaking from the inside with a history of quick starts, that's a combo worth watching.
Absolutely. But remember, it's just one factor, right? We need to look at the whole picture. The horse's class, their recent form, workouts, even the jockey strategy.
Right. So no betting on autopilot. Got it. Speaking of contenders, the Racing Form Report and Equibase are both highlighting NAKATOMI and Super CHOW.
Oh, yeah, this could be a showdown.
Okay, I love a good rivalry. Give me the rundown on NAKATOMI.
Okay, so he's starting from post position 4.
All right.
He's got the pedigree, he's competed in Grade 1 and Grade 2 races, and his buyer speed figure, 115 highest in the field.
Whoa, that's impressive. But I'm looking at Equibase here, and it says his last win at Gulfstream was back in 2023. Is that a red flag?
Well, it's something to think about, but his recent workout time suggests he's in great shape. You know, he clocked a bullet 5 furlongs in 1.00 flat. That means he's ready to take the lead.
Okay, see, the Racing Form Report even gives him a fair odds estimate of 2 to 1 or higher. Can you remind me what that means again? Like, what are fair odds in betting terms?
Fair odds basically reflect the real probability of a horse winning.
Okay.
So if the actual odds offered are higher than the fair odds, you might have a really good value bet on your hands.
Ah, so 2 to 1 or higher on NAKATOMI. Could be a nice payout if he lives up to the hype. Okay, now what about Super CHOW?
He's breaking from gate 5. Horse is all about speed, and he loves Gulfstream 3 wins and 2 places here.
Impressive. And his workouts.
Blazing fast. His 4 furlong time was 47.6 seconds.
Whoa.
Second best out of 136 workouts that day. So, yeah, he's a speed demon for sure.
The Racing Form Report is calling him an overlay consideration. They say if his odds go above 4 to 1, he's a must bet. What exactly does overlay mean?
An overlay is when the odds are better than they should be based on the horse's actual chances.
Oh, so like a hidden gem.
Exactly. You're getting more bang for your buck, potentially.
Love it. Okay, so we got 2 speedsters. Could anyone challenge them?
Well, Concrete Glory, from post position 6, he's considered a potential upsetter.
Interesting. What makes him stand out?
He's a Gulfstream specialist, 10 wins at this very track. And get this, he's coming off a recent win here with a 101 buyer speed figure.
Wow, he's on fire.
Yeah, he's in top form, but the Racing Form Report does mention he likes to press the pace.
So like run right up there with the leader.
Exactly. It can be a good strategy, but it depends how fast the leader sets the pace. You know, if the front runners tire themselves out, Concrete Glory could be in a perfect spot for a late surge.
Ah, strategy. Okay, and lastly, we got to talk about swerving. Starting from the inside post position, number 1.
Yep, that inside draw could be a real advantage. He'll be looking to save ground and maybe get a jump on the competition.
The Racing Form Report mentioned his improving form, too. They highlighted his recent buyer speed figure of 98. But they seem to think he's more of a long shot, suggesting a place show bet. Was that exactly?
A place show bet means you're betting on the horse to finish in the top 3.
Oh, so you don't have to pick the exact winner.
Right. It's a good strategy for horses like Swervin. He might not be the favorite, but he could definitely sleep into the top 3 if things go his way.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We've got NAKATOMI and Super CHOW potentially battling it out for the lead, Concrete Glory pressing the pace, and Swervin trying to find an opening along the rail. Sounds like a recipe for a wild race.
It's going to be a good one.
Definitely. So far, what are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
Okay, so first off, pay attention to the pace of the race. Who's taking the lead? Who's holding back? That's key. And second, remember that track bias we talked about? At Gulfstream, those speedsters from the inside posts, they have a real advantage.
Don't forget it, folks. Those 2 factors alone could make or break your bet.
And one last thing, don't underestimate experience in class.
True.
Horses like Nakatomi, who have competed at a higher level, they might have that extra edge when the pressure's on.
Solid advice. All right, ready to dive back in? Let's talk about some of the other contenders in this race, the ones who might be flying under the radar.
Let's do it.
You never know where you might find a hidden gem, right?
Absolutely. So we've talked about the favorites, but let's be real. In horse racing, upsets happen all the time.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
We got to look at some of those lesser-known contenders, too, the ones who could shake things up.
Love those underdog stories. Who should we be watching?
Well, the Racing Form Report mentions Gordian Knot, coming out of gate number 2.
Okay.
They call him a late bloomer. Didn't start racing until he was 4. But he's shown some real potential, especially in that win at Parks Racing last September.
What happened in that race?
He battled for the lead the whole way, showed a lot of grit. You know, if he brings that same tenacity to Gulfstream, he might just surprise us.
Okay, so he might not have the same flashy record as Nakatomi, but he's got heart. What about Okero? He's starting from post position 3, right?
Yeah, Okira's an interesting one. The Racing Form Report says he's a closer, likes to hang back and make a late run.
Okay.
But they also say he'd need a meltdown up front to really have a chance.
So he's counting on those front runners tiring each other out.
Exactly. It's a risky strategy, but if it pays off, it could pay off big.
High risk, high reward. I like it. Now, we can't forget about Comedy Town, right? He's breaking from gate 7.
Right.
And he's trained by Safier Joseph Jr., who, as we mentioned, has 3 horses in this race.
Comedy Town is a consistent performer. Not always flashy, but he often finishes in the money. He even won the Sunshine State Stakes back in January.
Reliable, but is that enough to stand out in this field?
He could be a factor, especially if Joseph uses his other horses to set a pace that benefits Comedy Town.
Ah, those trainer tactics coming into play. So just to recap, we've got our favorites, Nakatomi and Super CHOW, likely battling for the lead, Concrete Glory, pressing the pace, Swervin looking for an opening, and then those wild cards, Gordian Knot, Okiro, and Comedy Town.
That's a good summary.
It's a lot. But before we move on, I think it's worth revisiting that idea of track bias.
Yeah, good point.
We know Gulfstream favored speed, but how can our listeners actually use that info to make smarter bets?
Well, first off, remember track bias is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. We don't want people just blindly betting on every fast horse.
Exactly. You gotta look at each horse's past performances, especially at Gulfstream. Have they shown speed here before? How did they perform from similar post positions?
So combine that track history with their running style.
Exactly. A horse that's consistently shown speed at Gulfstream and is breaking from an inside post, that's a potential winner.
Okay, got it. But we still need to factor in everything else too, right? Class, recent form, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. It's about connecting all the dots. Track bias gives us a clue, but we need the full picture to make informed predictions.
Speaking of the full picture, we've talked about the horses, but what about the humans behind them? The jockeys, the trainers, how much do they factor into your predictions?
Oh, they're a huge factor. A skilled jockey can make all the difference in a close race.
Yeah, it's like a partnership, right? The horse and the jockey working together.
Exactly. They got to know when to push, when to hold back, how to position the horse for the best advantage.
The Racing Form Report had a lot to say about the jockeys in this race.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start with Junior Alvarado. He's riding Nakatomi. They praised his patience and his ability to get the most out of his horse.
Alvarado is a top rider. He and Nakatomi even teamed up for a win in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt Handicap last year.
So they have some good chemistry.
They do.
What about Jorge Ruiz? He's the jockey on Super CHOW.
Ruiz is known for his aggressive style, likes to send his horse to the lead early, set a fast pace.
Sounds like a good fit for Super CHOW. He's a speed demon.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What about Edgar Zayas? He's riding Concrete Glory.
Zayas is a Gulfstream specialist, knows this track like the back of his hand. He's also ridden Concrete Glory to multiple wins here, including that recent dominant victory.
So another strong partnership. And lastly, we have Edwin Gonzalez on Swervin.
Gonzalez is a solid rider, known for his consistency. The Racing Form Report even mentioned he's particularly good at saving ground, which could be key for Swervin starting from that inside post.
It's amazing how all these little details can affect the race.
It's true.
Okay, so we've got the jockeys covered. What about the trainers? Safier Joseph Jr. is the big name here. 3 horses in the race.
Joseph is definitely one to watch. He's had a lot of success at Gulfstream, knows how to prepare his horses for this track.
The Racing Form Report talked about his strategic use of pace. Could that come into play here?
Absolutely. He might tell his jockeys to set a controlled pace, avoid a burnout scenario, or he could even have his horses work together to block other rivals.
It's like a team sport, but with horses.
Exactly.
We also have Wesley Ward. He trains Nakatomi, and he's got a reputation for excellence, especially with sprinters.
Oh yeah, Ward is meticulous. He wouldn't ship Nakatomi in from Kentucky if he didn't think he had a real shot.
That's a good sign. And lastly, we have Jorge Delgado. He trains Super CHOW.
Delgado is a rising star, making a name for himself. He's already had success with Super Chow at Gulfstream, so...
So we've got 3 trainers, each with their own approach, their own strategy. It's like a 3-way battle of wits on the track.
It is. And that just adds another layer of complexity to our predictions.
For sure. Now, there's one more piece of the puzzle we got to talk about. Betting odds.
Ah, yes, the fun part, where we try to turn all this analysis into winnings.
Exactly. So let's talk strategy. What do we need to know about betting odds?
Well, remember that betting odds reflect the public's perception of a horse's chances. But the public isn't always right.
So there's a chance to find some undervalued horses.
Absolutely. That's where overlay betting comes in.
Right. We're looking for horses whose odds are higher than their actual chances of winning.
Exactly.
But how do we actually find those overlays? It seems like a lot of guesswork.
It's not guesswork. It's more like detective work. You have to consider everything we've talked about. Class, form, workouts, track bias, jockey-trainer stats, then compare all that to the odds.
So if we think a horse has a good chance based on our analysis, but the odds are surprisingly high, that could be an overlay.
Bingo. It means the public is undervaluing that horse, which creates an opportunity for us.
I'm starting to get it. But it's a lot to take in. Any advice for our listeners who are new to horse racing and feeling a little overwhelmed?
My advice: don't be afraid to start small.
Okay.
Pick a few races, focus on a few contenders, do your research, and most importantly, have fun.
Great advice. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. We analyzed the contenders. We talked about track bias. We even dove into jockey and trainer strategies. And, of course, we explored how to find those valuable overlay bets.
We've given our listeners a lot to think about.
For sure. So are you ready to put it all together and reveal your picks for the Gulfstream Park Sprint Stakes?
I am. It's prediction time.
Okay, so we've analyzed this race from every angle. We've looked at the speedsters, the trains, all the strategies. Now, the moment of truth, it's prediction time. What do you think? Who's going to cross that finish line first?
I'm putting my money on NAKATOMI.
Really?
Yeah, his class and speed are just undeniable. He's got the experience. That recent workout shows he's in top form. I think he'll sit just behind the leaders and then, bam, make a powerful move in the stretch.
I see your point. He is very versatile, but for my pick, I'm going with Super Chow.
Oh, interesting choice.
I know. Maybe I'm letting that Gulfstream speed bias get to me, but that 47.6 workout time, it just screams winner to me.
It's a bold pick going against a seasoned contender like NAKATOMI, but hey, that's what makes this race so exciting, right? Anything can happen.
Exactly. Okay, so for second place, I'm going to go with Concrete Glory. I mean, he loves this track, and he's shown he can handle the pressure of running near the front.
I agree. Concrete Glory is a solid choice for second. He's consistent, always seems to find a way to be in the mix. But for my second place pick, I'm actually going to go with Swervin.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that inside post position could really give him the edge. He'll save ground and potentially make a late surge.
True. He could really benefit if those front runners tire themselves out. Okay, so for third place, I'm feeling a little risky. I'm going to go with a bit of a long shot. Gordian Knot.
A long shot, huh?
Yeah. He might be a late blemier, but he's got potential. He's shown flashes of brilliance.
I like your thinking, taking a chance on the underdog. For my third place, I'm going to stick with Okero. He's a closer, and if that pace collapses, he could definitely swoop in for a surprise finish.
I could see that happening. So there you have it, folks. Our predictions. NAKATOMI versus Super Chow for the win. Concrete Glory and Swervin battling it out for second. And then Gordian Knot and Okero hoping to sneak into the top 3.
It's going to be a close one.
It is. But, as much as we analyze, horse racing is always unpredictable.
That's part of the fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No matter how much we research, there's always an element of surprise. So, listeners, grab your lucky hats, place your bets if you're feeling lucky, and just enjoy the spectacle. The Gulfstream Park Sprint Stakes. It's going to be a race to remember.
It sure is.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the Gulfstream Park Sprint Stakes.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We had a blast breaking it down with you. Until next time, happy handicapping.
OT62.